get to the Mike Krzyzewski interview as we sat down with him yesterday after his press conference, and here is how it started. We welcome in the former Duke head coach, Mike Krzyzewski, and I love the fact that there's no victory tour. You end this now. It's clean. You don't have to have everybody say nice things about you, give you gifts along the way. So, Coach, you did it the right way, and I applaud you.
Yeah, I like the thing you said about victory tour because that's what I would like it to be. But, no, it's time, but I wanted to coach another year. But then, how do you do that if you're not? How do you recruit kids that you're not going to coach next year? It's impossible. I don't think that's right. And so I think this is a good plan of succession. John Shire is ready, and we're going to have hopefully a great year now, and hopefully that'll be continued.
If you go back to when you first started, I think you were 33 when you got to Duke, so maybe a year younger than John is. What do you see in John that may remind you of yourself at a similar age?
Well, I think John is better prepared to be the Duke coach than I was, not to be a head coach at a college. Like I was a head coach at a college, great school at West Point, but I wasn't ready to be at this level. I had a learning curve on what it would take, the recruiting and everything that in order to compete in my neighborhood. John already knows that. He's been my lead guy for 3 years. He's been on the staff 8 years. So for this job, I think he's better prepared. And he also understands the current state of recruiting. The people that you have to have relationships with that has changed over the years. And he's done that. He's very, very good at that.
Take us back to year 2, year 3. You had 10 wins, 11 wins.
Right.
Were you nervous about keeping your job?
I wasn't nervous. There are a lot of people, Duke fans, that were nervous about me keeping my job. But thankfully, not my two bosses, Tom Butters, who believed in me, and President Sanford, who believed in me. And we were a team. That doesn't happen as much nowadays. And there was a process of growth. And also, Dan, it was a time where there wasn't the turnover every year in college basketball. So, I mean, you might be facing Jordan for 3 years, which we did, or Sampson for 4 years. You weren't facing them for 1 year, and then they had to retool. So the patience, but also the savvy of my two bosses, and their belief in me, obviously it paid off.
First time you woke up and said that word retirement. You remember?
I haven't said the word retirement yet because I'll say that in the spring. I just said I'm coaching this year, and then that'll be it. So I'm not retired right now. I'm an active participant so in other words, I'm not there yet. If I was there yet, then I wouldn't do a good job in being the coach this year. So I have to be in this moment, but I have to let people know what the plan is, that I'm going to stop coaching, which lends itself to say Coach K is going to retire. I'm not trying to make this a play on words, but it really is how you have to focus on this. If I'm already thinking retirement, then I should. I gotta think of being passionate about coaching, which I am.
Do you have any hobbies?
Listening to your show.
Yep. Well, that's a full-time job. That's not a hobby.
Bad hobby. My family is trying to break me of it, and I said, no, I gotta be loyal to this guy. He doesn't have many listeners.
Yes, you're right. Yes.
I don't want to be lonely.
You and Jim Boeheim, those the only two listeners I got, and I could lose
one
of you.
And we do listen. No, my hobbies have been what I do. Coaching has been my work, my hobby, but my family. I've been lucky. All my daughters, their husbands, and my 10 grandkids live right by me. And then I really like to do a lot out, and we have a big We have a lot of land and beautiful, and I just like to be outside and plant stuff, cut it down, figure it out, and just to be outside.
Who's the first player you heard from?
Wow. I don't know that. I heard from so many of them. Maybe Wojo. Maybe Wojo. He's one of the first ones.
Did he
Yeah.
slap
I
the
heard from
floor,
Quinn
though?
Snyder. I heard from Quinn Snyder yesterday, and they're in a playoff game. And then I text them. I didn't get back to all my texts. We had a lot of them, and so I'm watching his game, and I finally looked at his text. I said, "Holy crap, I'm watching his game." So I texted him. I said, "I'm watching your game. Hopefully you won't read this during your game." Although you had a 30-point lead at halftime, maybe you did. And then he got back afterwards.
You said in your press conference that you'd like to get a team picture. Every player?
Yeah.
I don't think we can pull that off, can we, Coach?
No, we can't. But to me, the guys who've been in it for a long time, and hopefully the guys who haven't been in it for a long time, but the guys who've been in it for a long time recognize that, and I'm not the only one. I'm one of many that know that it's about the relationships you develop with your players. And during this time, it's more difficult to develop those deep-rooted relationships because you don't have as much time. And it's a danger really in our sport right now with almost 1,700 kids in the transfer portal, that a big part of developing a relationship is going through a tough time. And where you go through a tough time together, a tough time of improvement or understanding or whatever. And I'm not saying every kid that transfers walks away from that, but a number of them would rather try something different than make that work. And all I know is the guys that I've coached where they made it work, they've gotten better. Our relationship is deep, and it goes on for forever. So I worry about that, Dan, in our game. But again, the freedom of movement and all that, I'm all for it. I just wish we could take care of the other thing too.
2 months ago, Roy Williams announced that he was retiring. What kind of impact did that have on you and any with your decision?
Yeah, well, Roy and I are actually really good friends, and a big thing is we both understand the magnitude of the job that we've had. He had, and now I still have, and what it means to a university, what it means to our sport, the demands of that job. No other person really understands that unless they're in that. And it's really one of the reasons Coach Dean Smith and I developed a very good relationship as I grew up. Before I grew up in this game, I didn't understand him and was and then all of a sudden, now I get it. And so it's there's going to be a time for all of us. I'm just glad that Roy picked the time that he feels is best for him. I'm trying to, and how about us being able to pick the time? It's pretty good. Not we're both of us are the lucky ones to be able to do that.
He's the current but sort of former coach at Duke. He's Mike Krzyzewski. Will you miss games more or practices more?
Just the practices, the workouts, the times where guys can just be guys. Obviously the excitement of a game, we didn't have any of that this year, and I'm anxious to get back to that. And I'll be all right without that, I think, after this year. But I will always miss the development of relationships and just the goofing around, getting on somebody when they needed it, praising them. How many people in their 70s are able to hang and develop relationships with people 18 to 23, or a staff that's 33 to 40, which keeps them young and vibrant. You get energy from them. I'll miss that. And I know that that'll be somewhat of a void when it happens, because you do get energy when you're with those youngsters.
Did you ever get to the point where you enjoyed the wins more than that feeling of losing? Like, could winning ever overshadow that feeling of losing?
Well, losing was lower than winning was high.
Yeah.
I would say that, no question. But I think if you talk, I would think most people who've been fortunate enough to have a number of successes, a lot of successes, would say the same thing. That you have to, because you want to avoid that feeling. It's not just beating the other team or the opponent. It's not wanting the position that you would be in if you lose. Now, in saying that, the highs are pretty good too. Like when you win a national championship, or for me, winning Olympics and world championships, being in 5 of those, that was unbelievable to do that. However, the lowest moment I've had in coaching was with USA basketball when we were learning, and we lost in 2006 to Greece and Tokyo. And then we won after that every game, but and 5 championships. But so that low was the lowest. There's no question about it.
Like the lowest of all of your losses, including
All of
Duke.
All of them.
Did you let down the country? Is that what you
Yeah,
felt?
you let down. Yeah, you're coaching the United States team,
Yeah.
and you lose. And thank goodness I was with just an amazing guy, and Jerry Colangelo, who said, "We're going to get this done." And then he believed in me and believed in us. And then it worked out that we developed a really good culture with all those guys who, made a lot of sacrifices in order to play.
Finish this sentence. If Christian Laettner doesn't go to Duke.
You may not be talking to me. Christian Laettner was the best player, the most accomplished player here at Duke. I mean, he maybe one of the top 5 players in the history of the NCAA. We're talking about every year a Final Four, national championships. You can only win 6 games in the NCAA tournament when you win the whole thing. In his 4 years, he was 21-2. It can be crazy. I mean, that those things are not. And I'll tell you what, I've had the belief of many, many of my players. No one believed in me and our relationship more than Christian. He was. Everyone can say about what he was for me. He was as good a guy as I could have ever coached, and as great a competitor as I've coached.
Well, Shaq on TNT the other night said that when he played against Christian the first time, he said, he ate my lunch. Like, he said, I had to reassess my game because that guy was not bigger than me, stronger than me, more athletic than me, but he ate my lunch. You remember that meeting between those two?
Well, he has selective memory and good memory, and I love Shaq, but Laettner did that twice. And like, I think Shaq's one of the top 10, maybe 10 players ever. But in college, and we had a pretty good supporting cast too. Some Hurley and Grant Hill helped him a little bit. But those were, I appreciate it. I love Shaq and that. But when you talk to him, tell him there was a game at Duke and then a game at LSU.
Did you recruit Shaq?
No, that was he was in Germany. We didn't know about him. Dale Brown, that was a coup. Like where did this guy come from? And there were no AAU tournaments or you didn't get a scouting report from Mannheim or Berlin saying, hey, there's this guy, really good guy out there. Somehow he had the intel, and his dad was military, so they were lucky. They were lucky to get him.
Indulge me in this. You brought it up before. We've talked about it, but take me back to that moment where you nearly took the Lakers job.
Well, it was at a time of I think people, if they're lucky enough, they're able to make their success. Have they had enough in a certain period of time or at a certain location? Do they need to do something else in their career? And I was 57, and the pros were appealing to me, and Kobe was appealing to me because I knew him as a youngster, and the Lakers, their brand was, and then the amount of money was generational, and but I could not leave Duke. And I mean, we were making good money, not the money that they were talking about, but I love Duke. I love college basketball. And ironically, 5 months after turning it down, Jerry Colangelo offered me the national team. Even though you don't get paid for that, the ability to coach the pros was then not just satisfied, it was magnified. I got a chance to coach more great players than anybody because of my time at Duke, but also my 11 years coaching the U.S. team.
Do I have to get you a gift?
Well, you should have surprised me. I thought there would be one already. I thought that was the end. That's the only reason I did the damn interview. They said at the end, Dan's going to surprise you with this amazing gift. Now you're asking me? You've ruined it.
I thought you retired.
Well, see, now
I have a year.
It gives me something to look forward to in the spring.
You know, when you buy a wedding gift, you don't have to get the gift then. You have a year to get that wedding gift for the couple. I got a year.
I didn't know that. My wife gets the wedding gifts.
Yeah.
So I did not know that I was going to learn something. Usually when we do interviews, it's kind of void of learning opportunities.
Yeah.
And today I got one. Unbelievable. Thank you.
I'm thinking of retiring after doing this interview. just to let you know. I'm going to leave you with this. When you hear Boeheim's voice, do you think it sounds like a car trying to start in cold weather? So if it's like, what do you think, Coach?
Well, I think you're right, but I love the sound of a car starting in cold weather because I love Jim, and he and I. But it's once it starts, there's usually a lot of wisdom. There's a lot of wisdom. Hey, I didn't know. You're going to retire and be like a comedian or
no? I'm going to join Shire's staff. He's going to need all the help he can get. He's going to need a shooting coach, and I'm right here. Nobody plays defense, just offense. I can help him.
Now he's going to go after a hitting coach. Anybody can hire a shooting coach. He's going to go after someone who hits shots.
Oh, make shots.
Make a maker, a shot.
Because when they said,
not a shot shooter.
I would always say that I was a making guard. They say, "Are you a shooting guard?" And I go, "No, I'm a making guard." So I understand what you're saying, Coach.
Yeah, you separated yourself from the magnitude.
Yes, I did.
You've always done that, Dan.
Yes, I have. Yes,
sometimes in good or sometimes in not so good.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, man. Nice being on with you.